Welcome to the Priyanka Neela Krishnan Show with me, Priyanka Neela Krishnan. This is Enterprise Security Series episode 47, and today's topic: half your data is hiding from you. And this is where security leaders, CISOs, and business leaders come for a straight practitioner read on enterprise data security without the vendor gloss. One quick note before we start, and I'll say it every episode because it matters. Everything here is my independent commentary. These are my own views, not tied to any employer, product, or vendor. Today, we open a new arc, and it starts with the most basic question in all of security, one that almost everyone skips. Do you actually know where your data is? Not the tidy version in the board deck. The, the real version, scattered across clouds, apps, backups, and forgotten exports. Over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to show you why most organizations cannot answer that question. Why that single gap sits underneath nearly every breach and what to do about it. If you fix one thing this year, make it this one. Picture your data map, the tidy diagram in the last board deck. Now picture reality. Copies of sensitive files in a forgotten cloud bucket, customer records in a spreadsheet someone exported 2 years ago, chat logs, backups, test databases full of real data. That is the half of your estate nobody drew on the map, and it is exactly where breaches keep coming from. This episode is about the most basic and most skipped step in all of security: knowing what data you have and where it lives. I am Priyanka Neela Krishnan, and if you have only one thing that you can fix this year, you got to make it this one. Let me start with an uncomfortable truth. Every security control you have, everything that you have ever had, right? Ever bought makes the same silent assumption that you know where your data is. That is the underneath assumption that you have, like you know where your data lives. Your firewall protects the network you defined. Your encryption protects the stores you told it about. Your access controls govern the systems you enrolled. All of that is real work and it matters. But it all points at the data on the map. And in most organizations, the data on the map is a fraction of the data that actually exists. The rest is scattered across cloud accounts nobody audits, SaaS platforms nobody invented, backups that nobody classified, and endpoints that nobody scans. That is not a small gap, it is often the majority of your estate. And here is why it is so dangerous. Attackers do not care about your map. They scan for exposed data wherever it sits, and the data you forgot about is the data with no owner, no monitoring, and no alarm. It is the softest target you have, and you did not even know you had it. So, before we talk about any advanced control, we have to talk about the foundation underneath all of them, which is simply seeing your own data. Because a control protecting data you cannot find is protecting nothing. Here is the gap that defines this whole problem, laid out just plainly. On the left is how we think about our data: a tidy map, a known list of systems, each one with an owner, a classification level, and a control wrapped around it. That is the picture that goes in the board deck, and it is comforting. On the right is what is actually true in almost every enterprise. Data sprawl in every corner. The same customer list duplicated across 5 systems. Spreadsheets exported for a project that ended 2 years ago and never deleted. SaaS tools a system or a team adopted without telling anyone. Backups from a decommissioned application. Test environments quietly loaded with real production data because it was easier than making fake data. Most of that is unclassified, most of it is unmonitored, and a lot of it is sensitive. The reason this matters is not philosophical, it is operational. When a breach happens, the first question anyone asks is what data was affected. If you only know about the left side, you cannot answer for the right side. On the right side is usually where the exposure actually was. The map is not the territory, and attackers live in the territory. Here is the number that should reframe your entire program. According to Splunk's State of Dark Data research, 55% of enterprise data is dark on average. Dark means the organization is storing it but cannot locate it, cannot classify it, and cannot govern who has access to it. Sit with that. More than half of your data is in a practical sense invisible to the people responsible for protecting it. Other estimates run even higher, with some research putting the range at 55 to 80% once you count every hidden, unmanaged, and duplicated copy. And the trend is going the wrong way because AI tools and multi cloud environments let people generate, copy, and scatter data faster than any governance process can keep up. Now, connect that to cost. Research indicates that unmonitored dark data adds roughly $900,000 to the average breach. Because when you do not know the data exists, it takes longer to detect the exposure and longer to contain it. So, dark data is not just a storage problem or a tidiness problem, it is a security problem with a price tag. Every percentage point of your estate that is dark is a percentage point you're paying to store, cannot defend, and will struggle to account for on your worst day. Half your data is hiding from you. The attackers are not looking away. Let me add one more angle. Because leaders sometimes hear this and think it is only a compliance concern. It is not. Dark data is an AI problem too. Every organization racing to feed data into AI systems is, without realizing it, pulling from an estate it has never fully mapped, which means sensitive data can end up in a model, a prompt, or an output with no one having decided it should. So, discovery is not just about defending against breaches, it is about knowing what you're handing to your own AI. The organizations that will use AI safely are the same ones that did the boring work of knowing their data first. There is no shortcut around it. You either see your data or you're guessing. And guessing does not scale to the volume you now hold. Two numbers that together explain why this problem persists. First, roughly 70% of organizations admit they do not know what sensitive data they store or where it resides. This is like a confession directly from the field. Most security leaders, if they're honest, cannot give you a confident, current answer to the simplest question about their own estate. Not because they are careless, but because the data outgrew the tools built to track it. Second, only about 20% of organizations have adopted Data Security Posture Management, DSPM, the category of tooling built specifically to discover and classify data across cloud and on-prem environments. So you have a large majority who know they are blind and a small minority who have started buying the glasses. That gap is the opportunity. And I want to be clear that the tool is not the point. The discipline is the point. Whether you buy a platform or build a program, the goal is the same. Continuously discover where data lives, classify it by how sensitive it is, and keep that picture current as the estate changes. The organizations pulling ahead are not the ones with the fanciest dashboard. They are the ones who decided that not knowing was no longer acceptable and made discovery a permanent function instead of a one-time audit. So here is the reframe. And it is the thesis of this whole channel around these 10 videos applied to the most basic layer. You cannot govern what you cannot see. We spend enormous energy on sophisticated controls and then we deploy them on top of an estate we have never fully mapped. That is like installing the best locks in the world on the 3 doors you remembered while a dozen others stand open around the back. Data visibility is not the boring prerequisite you rush through to get to the interesting security work. In a data-centric world, discovery is the first real control because every downstream decision depends on it. You cannot apply least privilege to data you have not found. You cannot encrypt what you have not located. You cannot honor a deletion request or a regulator's 4-day disclosure clock if you cannot say what data you hold and where. The question is not who has access, it is what data exists, where it lives, how sensitive it is, and who can reach it. That is the foundation. And most organizations skipped it because it is unglamorous and it is hard, and they went straight to buying tools that assume it was already done. Now go back and build the floor. Everything else you own is standing on it whether you build it or not. 3 moves you can start on Monday. First, discover before you defend. Stand up continuous discovery across your cloud accounts, your SaaS platforms, your endpoints, and your backups. And set your expectations correctly. You're not going to reach a perfect, complete inventory, and chasing that will paralyze you. You are looking for the big, dangerous surprises, the data you forgot you had, sitting somewhere with no owner. Second, classify by sensitivity and risk. Not every file deserves equal attention, and treating them all the same is how teams burn out. Tag what is regulated, what is revenue critical, what would end up in a headline so that your controls and your limited attention follow the data that can actually hurt you. Third, prioritize regulated data first. Do not try to boil the ocean. Start where exposure is most expensive, which is health data, financial data, and personal data, because that is where the fines are largest and the reputational damage is worst. Find that data, confirm who can reach it, and lock it down before you move on. Notice the pattern in all 3: discovery, then classification, then prioritized action. Discovery, then classification, and then prioritized action. You're turning an invisible, ungovernable mass into a ranked list you can actually work. That is how you convert half a hidden estate into something you can defend. Let me leave you with a challenge you can run this week. Go to your team and ask a simple question. Show me where our most sensitive data lives, all of it, current as of today. Then watch what happens. In most organizations, you will get a partial answer, a lot of caveats, and an honest admission that nobody is fully sure. That silence, that hedging is the exact size of your problem. It is not a failure of your people, it is a failure to treat discovery as the foundation it is. Everything you have built, every control you have funded, rests on the assumption that you know where your data is. And for most of you, that assumption has never been tested. So test it. Because the alternative is testing it during a breach. When a regulator or a customer or a journalist is asking what data was exposed and you're discovering the answer in real time, in public, on a deadline, the organizations that will handle these things most well are the ones who did the unglamorous work first. They found their data before someone else did. That is the whole game. Stop guarding doors you can see and start finding the data you cannot. This is the source slide for this presentation. You can take a quick glance at it. All right, this is episode 47. If you have taken one thing from it, let it be this. You cannot protect what you cannot see, and most organizations cannot see more than half their own data. So before you buy another control, go find your data, discover it, classify it, and start with what is regulated and would hurt the most. If this was useful, please do subscribe so the rest of the arc finds you, and share it with whoever owns data governance on your team or organization. Tell me in the comments whether your team could produce a current map of your sensitive data today. The honest answer is the start of your work. I am Priyanka Neela Krishnan, and this has been my independent commentary and experience share on enterprise data security. And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe and stay secure. Bye, everybody.